In the golden era of television, Leave It to Beaver portrayed the ideal American family and won hearts with its benign suburban existence. Stanley, who portrayed Whitey Whitney, had a complicated background despite the show's pristine appearance. Stanley died at age 53 after struggling financially and being unable to purchase a tombstone. Fans of the famous program were startled when the youngster who played Wally and the Beaver became addicted and went downhill. His narrative haunts us and reminds us that celebrity doesn't always bring prosperity, and the brightest lights burn out quickest. The unknown secrets of Leave It to Beaver, including Stanley's terrible ending, will be revealed in this video. Welcome to a nostalgic but sobering look at everyone's favorite family program as we unearth the reality behind the scenes and recall the lives touched and often broken by Hollywood's pressures. An American classic. One of the most watched comedies of its day, the legendary TV show attained immortality. Its iconic status is shown by the many references to it in contemporary films and television programs throughout the years. In addition to looking at some fascinating program trivia, let's look at the cast's activities since the last episode. Beaver was every middle-class boy in America. Theodore the Beaver Cleaver was the show's protagonist and central figure. The Beaver represents what you may assume a middle-class boy's life was like in the 1950s and 1960s. In the first few seasons, he was annoyed with females his age, but as the program progressed, he learned to accept that. The Beaver had a thing for a number of the older ladies on the program, despite his disdain for younger females. Among these ladies were school teachers, Miss Canfield and Miss Landers, among others. The program focused on his experiences at home, school, and community. He was an inquisitive and sometimes innocent youngster. He was undoubtedly the center of attention for this enormously successful series, even if it included other stars, including the rest of his family. Jerry Mathers got the role of the Beaver in a creative way. Keeping things genuine might be beneficial in some situations, but it only sometimes brings you where you need to go. We're not sure what would have occurred if an older person had tried to pull off what Mathers accomplished, but the method by which he acquired employment was honest, as anticipated by a youngster. Even though Mathers had a lot of acting experience in commercials and motion pictures before being chosen for the Beaver role, it isn't the only reason. Mathers was cast by show creators Joe Connolly and Bob Mosher for valid reasons. Mathers claimed he would much prefer to be at his Cub Scout meeting than being auditioning for this job when he showed up for one of his auditions wearing his uniform. They recruited him for his candor, which is precisely what they were searching for. The mall that began it all. Jerry Mathers was 2 years old when he was found. A photographer saw him shopping with his mother in the Los Angeles region and wanted to feature him in a children's clothes catalog. This fateful day, he started a childhood saturated with TV shows, movies, and ads. His CV was ready when he was 5 and cast as the Beaver. Shopping with your mother while you're a little kid isn't easy, but this excursion paid off excellently. Additionally, getting big-time acting opportunities at a young age depends on your ability to build your portfolio. His mother did a great job preparing him for the major leagues. Tony Dow had no acting experience before this show. Tony Dow, who played the Beaver's older brother, performed well as an actor throughout the series. Was it any surprise to you that this was his first acting gig? Given that this was his first significant acting part and he was found while working as a lifeguard, his performance is all the more remarkable. That's good luck. Whatever the case, there aren't many stories of performers landing significant parts in their debut roles without any prior acting training. So Dow must have been wearing a lifeguard shirt that stated, "I am a great actor." Dow must have been glad that he decided to become a lifeguard in the first place, from saving lives to showtime. Tony Dow was a diving champion. Tony Dow was a skilled diver in addition to being a lifeguard and having never performed on stage before Leave It to Beaver. Not only was he gifted, but he was among the greatest in the world at his age. He won a championship in the Junior Olympics when he was younger. Talent comes in many forms, particularly for Dow. If you were ever caught drowning in a pool, How handy would it be to have a junior Olympic champion there to rescue you? There was cause for swimmers to feel safer. It also makes sense that he had never performed before. He was probably too preoccupied with getting ready for the Olympics. Diving seems to be a challenging sport requiring a lot of skill. He probably applied his work ethic to acting to succeed at it. The crew kept their egos in check. Mathers and Dow were instructed not to watch Leave It to Beaver by the show's writers and producers because they thought the two young performers would become too self-absorbed. The producers, the writers, asked us not to watch it. They didn't want us to get a big head, Dow said. Thus, they chose not to watch it. It's a fantastic concept at its heart. Since they were already functioning effectively, it was evident that keeping them modest and level-headed was a terrific approach to keeping them on track. The adage, "Don't fix what ain't broke," applies here. On the other hand, it prevented them from analyzing and developing ways to improve their performance. It's common knowledge that when you examine a video of yourself, you may see areas where you might have performed better and make the necessary corrections. The Great Cover-Up. The elegant and refined appearance of Barbara Billingsley's persona extended beyond her choice of pearls for every episode. Her wardrobe had given her pearl necklaces to hide and deflect attention from Billingsley's neck hollow. For this reason, Billingsley wore pearls even while working on projects unrelated to the well-known television show. Not only did she wear pearls, but she also used scarves or just well-fitting shirts for coverage. The surgical scar left a hollow space behind. She received a lot of flack for her clothing, but as you'll see in the following slide, she had a solid purpose for everything. Perhaps she wouldn't have been the subject of such intense scrutiny if viewers had understood everything at the time. Unfortunately, that is the nature of business in Hollywood. You have to either roll with the punches or buckle under the strain. She handled the blows well. The lowdown on June's high heels. Please make sure to comply with everything the producers require. June Cleaver had excellent style at all times. Well, cleaning in high heels? Was that necessary? As it happens, this was not an indication of a bygone period. The producers requested that she wear high-heeled shoes to continue to tower above her developing sons rather than vice versa. Still, isn't it typical for boys to be taller than their mothers? She wore flats at the show's beginning, but had to be taller because she was the matriarch, and the boys grew throughout the 6 seasons of filming. All the producers asked was for her always to play the parent, no less. Looks are one thing, however. Realizing she is the parent is quite another. We had a good feeling that the audience understood. TV Dad Ward was used to teach life lessons. Hugh Beaumont was ordained as a Methodist minister preacher before assuming the job of Ward Cleaver. He was underpaid as a minister, which was one of the reasons he entered the entertainment industry in the first place. Every Sunday, the minister's role is to impart life lessons to the congregation. You will be lectured for hours on what good and evil are in life. He began performing theater and radio work before becoming a full-time preacher. He followed several various routes to become an actor. While not entirely, acting is connected to activities in radio and theater. A former minister is well suited for the father position. Beaumont successfully used the cards given to him and emerged victorious. He resented the show. Despite portraying a loving and devoted father, Hugh Beaumont may not have been comfortable playing a parent on Leave It to Beaver. He only accepted the position in the first place to augment his salary as an ordained priest. He traveled from Minnesota to shoot, but his family had to trek to Los Angeles once he was cast as a regular. He regrets filming the program in part because his mother-in-law was killed in a vehicle accident when his family was traveling. Furthermore, rumors state that Beaumont was typecast, much like many other Leave It to Beaver stars. Additionally, he preferred being the underdog to 2 young people, Tony Dow and Jerry Mathers. Even though he wasn't particularly fond of his role on the program, we're sure he had no animosity against his fellow cast members. After all, they were a family. Hugh Beaumont also wrote and directed many episodes. Hugh Beaumont portrayed the Cleaver family patriarch and played a significant role behind the camera. He was very busy writing and directing many of the various episodes he appeared in. This is standard procedure for many performers in the business. Having the ability to write and direct is a standard procedure for all performers. Actors such as Woody Allen, Clint Eastwood, Johnny Depp, Ben Affleck, Charlie Chaplin, and Spike Lee are examples of triple threats. Being a member of such a list is quite remarkable. Beaumont wrote one of the retrospective episodes titled Family Scrapbook. In this episode, the family gathers in the living room while old episodes are screened and everybody shares memories. June discovers a scrapbook from the family while cleaning. The Rare Child's Point of View. The show demonstrated the success of their creative ideas. You might stick with what is currently thriving and in demand, but real magic can happen when you go beyond the standard. That's what Leave It to Beaver accomplished. Another reason things most likely did not go as planned when the show started. CBS was not prepared to ride out the wave and take a risk. The fact that the program was unlike other sitcoms of the era contributed to its success and lengthy run. Leave It to Beaver recounted the tale from the kids' perspective, in contrast to most other programs of the time that told it from the parents' point of view. Parents may find it interesting to observe what their children think on television. Eddie Haskell was originally included for only one episode. Ken Osmond was recruited for a single episode after trying out as Wally Cleaver's closest buddy, Eddie Haskell. Nevertheless, the writers and producers retained him for 6 seasons after being pleased with his performance and chemistry with the ensemble. You may call it turning a rock into a mountain. Osmond needed to demonstrate his value on the first episode of the series to secure his place on the program. The youngster's skill must have thwarted the producer's original plan to retain him for one episode. As a result of offering him a contract, which reduces revenue, fewer things are feasible for the program. They reasoned that including Osmond might reduce their losses while gaining a valuable addition to the ensemble. Every episode was based on a true story. Writer-producer Joe Connolly, according to Jerry Mathers, constantly desired to write and maintain a notebook filled with detailed accounts of events from his childhood and his children. Eventually, these tales became episodes of Leave It to Beaver, also how the moniker Beaver originated. If you believed that every episode was entirely made up of fiction, you should reconsider, since there was some non-fictional content to each one. This serves to reinforce the reasons why this program was so very relevant. These episodes included true tales from actual individuals. Even if you were not intimately involved, you could have known someone who was. This is just one more fantastic feature that sets the program apart and shouldn't be disregarded. Wally came up with the nickname Beaver. The Beaver's moniker originally is ultimately disclosed in the program's last episode. Theodore's name was difficult for Wally to pronounce as a newborn. The parents thought Beaver would sound more amicable, so they stayed with it, even though when he tried, it sounded like Tweedore. When you consider it, it is a strange moniker. In that journal, Connolly also preserved a list of names from his early years, including those of friends, acquaintances, and young men he met in the military. He glanced over the list, trying to identify every character in the play, and Beaver grabbed his attention. As you may imagine, Connolly was drawn to the moniker of a fellow Marine he served with aboard a naval vessel during World War II. After all, it rhymes with Cleaver. He was aware that rhyme patterns increase memory retention, especially after he skipped over the mention of Beaver in the book. Dow became an artist later in life. Tony Dow was a figure of the Renaissance. He experimented with various activities before setting on acting as a career. He made yet another change later in life. Following his retirement from show business, Dow developed into a gifted sculptor and artist, producing some remarkable works of art that were well received by the art world. To put it mildly, Dow's accomplishments, from the Olympics to TV acting, are astounding. Barbara Billingsley's life was far from her characters. Billingsley's life was not like the middle-class housewife she portrayed on television. Billingsley was a working actress who also had to raise her 2 children alone when her spouse passed away. In contrast to the television show's depiction of a family, she was also raised by her single mother. She transitioned from one actual existence to an entirely imaginary one. Raising the 2 children was still the sole constant, but she wasn't alone in this time. Numerous performers have to go through this because, once the cameras start rolling, they have to change totally. People often end up behaving like their characters in real life as a result of it. This is how performers get typecast. They invest too much of themselves in the part, acting as if it's their actual life. Audiences are limited to seeing them in that capacity. But Billingsley's character influenced her. Billingsley's personal life was impacted by her part, even though she didn't live the same lifestyle as June Cleaver and had to deal with challenges in real life. Though she disagreed somewhat, she explained, "I think what happens is that the writers start writing about you and the character they created. So you become sort of all mixed up, I think." For actors, you can see it affects their perception of reality. "She was as nurturing, classy, and lovely as June Cleaver," said her son Glenn Billingsley, "and we were so proud to share her with the world." This instance had a favorable effect on Billingsley. Taking time to travel. Billingsley, who portrayed the devoted role of June Cleaver on the program, was typecast as the sweet character, which caused her to struggle to obtain employment. This is a frequent issue that performers have. Numerous performers have been constrained by being typecast throughout the history of acting, either because they perform the part so well that viewers can forget it, or because they cannot get another role in a motion picture or television series. Following that incident, she decided to tour the globe until the late 1970s, when she returned to the entertainment industry. She had an appearance in the comedy Airplane in 1980, whereby she performed as a passenger. Not just any ordinary traveler, but one who could speak jive. She expressed gratitude that the role helped her regain public recognition and revitalize her career. Don't allow them to discourage you from succeeding if you still believe you have it. Mathers took more than a decade off after this show. Mathers, who was still a teenager, decided to take a break from show business after playing the Beaver so effectively in the play. He attended college after completing his high school education and then went back to show business. University of California, Berkeley is his alma mater. The Beaver must have been intelligent, since that is a challenging school. In addition, Mathers played in a band in high school, Beaver and the Trappers. After earning a philosophy degree from college, he worked as a commercial loan officer. Even after taking a 5-year break from television, he performed occasionally, making a cameo in an episode of Batman as Pop, the stage doorman. He didn't return to the entertainment business until 1978. Beaver was going about his business. Eddie Haskell was the stuff of an urban legend. You may need clarification on the following material. Alice Cooper famously likened himself as a youngster to Eddie Haskell. Word then spread that Ken Osmond, the actor who had portrayed Eddie Haskell, had become Alice Cooper due to some false reporting and rumors. Naturally, it was eventually shown to be an urban legend. Osmond wasn't a rock star, but he did fight crime. Ken Osmond told Eddie Haskell farewell, maybe because he was typecast, and welcomed peacekeeping after Leave It to Beaver. He developed a mustache while serving as a police officer to assist others in guessing who he was. He was one of those annoying cops on motorcycles. He worked in vice and drugs as well. He once survived being shot 3 times while on patrol as a Los Angeles Police Department officer while pursuing a suspected vehicle thief on foot thanks to his bulletproof vest. That is prioritizing your business above your interests. Later, the incident was used as the basis for a Top Cops program on CBS. After being put on disability, he ultimately retired. Later in 2014, he and Christopher J. Lynch co-authored a book. Osmond was 76 years old when he passed away in 2020. Stanley Fafara couldn't afford a gravestone. It's common knowledge that young performers often experience hardships after becoming well-known and successful. Stanley Fafara, who portrayed Whitey on the television sitcom Leave It to Beaver, regrettably followed in similar footsteps and became entangled with narcotics after the show's 1963 finale. 2003 saw his addiction, financial collapse, and death. Because the actor was so impoverished, it was not possible to buy a headstone. Therefore, his burial lay unmarked for 13 years. Beaver started a band. As mentioned, Jerry Mathers formed Beaver and the Trappers, a band, while still in high school. They were an ordinary garage band performing at various Southern California locations. Toward the conclusion of filming the program, he also recorded 2 songs on his own, Don't You Cry and Wind Up Toy. This happened to be Mathers' period of inactivity as an actor. He likely had to cross being in a band off his bucket list when he was young. You can locate the tunes if you do a thorough enough online search. Although we have yet to hear them, it would be a great wager to place with a buddy whether the song would be enjoyable enough to listen to through to the finish. We do not doubt that the Beav had some musical ability. Mathers wasn't killed in Vietnam. And the gossip trail never stops turning. Jerry Mathers chose to enlist in the U.S. Air Force Reserve throughout his high school years. There was a wholly unfounded story that he had been slain in Vietnam while doing his duty in the late 1960s. This story is rendered much more absurd because Mathers was never stationed outside of the United States. The primary source of the rumor was somebody with a similar name who passed away, and significant media agencies misreported the story, claiming the child star had died rather than the other person. It must have been challenging for Mom during that confused moment when her roommate woke him up one morning and asked, "Do you know you're dead?" before thrusting a newspaper in his face that contained the Vietnam account of Private Mathers killed in action. Mrs. Mathers then received a tearful call from a fan offering condolences at home. He was turned down by the Marines. Mathers attempted to enroll as a U.S. Marine prior to entering the Air Force Reserve, but a well-known football player had lately lost his life in battle, and the Marines didn't want to take any more chances with exposure in case the well-known kid actor met a similar end. The Marines were more worried about how they would be seen than about a citizen's desire to support the nation. This occurred after there was a report that he had passed away. Thus, it probably didn't assist his cause to enroll much and strengthen their argument against his joining. Are the consequences of war death? Mathers shouldn't have to be stopped from wanting to serve his nation if he is prepared to risk his life for it. It is evident that politics had a role in this, and it is unfair to all sides. Jerry Mathers became a spokesperson for Jenny Craig. Mathers discovered he had diabetes later in life and put on a significant amount of weight. For anybody, it is not a good mix. He began the Jenny Craig program in the late 1990s on the advice of his doctor, and the program helped him drop up to 40 pounds. He later became Jenny Craig's first ever male spokesman. Jenny Craig made an excellent decision for their first male spokesman. You can see why Jenny Craig chose Mathers if he has remained as truthful as he was on his show audition. If you are Jenny Craig, it is also a fantastic tale to be part of. Even before you learn who the childhood star is, the headline, "Childhood Star Works Hard in the Face of Diabetes to Reach Goals," is motivational. Bravo to the Beav for persevering despite the obstacles. Frank Bank as Lumpy. Frank Bank portrayed Clarence Lumpy Rutherford, an adolescent who enjoyed making fun of Beaver. The actor, who starred in 50 episodes of the original series before returning for 101 episodes of the new Leave It to Beaver, called Lumpy muddled, dumpy, and awkward. The memoirs, Call Me Lumpy, My Leave It to Beaver Days, and Other Wild Hollywood Life, were also published by him in 1997. His television credits include Bachelor Father, 87th Precinct, Cimarron City, and Ford Television Theater. In all, he appeared in 3 films: the 1952 film The Story of Will Rogers, which he was uncredited for, the Leave It to Beaver movie, and another film. After the play, Bank gave up acting to pursue a career in stockbroking. In 2013, the day after turning 71, he departed from this life. Life After Lumpy. In Leave It to Beaver episodes, many females detested Frank Bank, but he made sure to inform everyone that he wasn't as lucky in real life as he was on the show when his book, Call Me Lumpy, My Leave It to Beaver Days and Other Wild Hollywood Life, was published in 1977. According to those who have read the book, Banks asserts that he has had sex with more than 1,000 women. There's a little too much information there. Banks was yet another poor actor who was a victim of typecasting. He was offered a part in a pilot for a television program based on the Archie comics, but the arrangement didn't work out. I love the show, but I can't get out of my head that that's Lumpy on screen, not Archie, a show spokesperson said of Banks. The show also influenced Frank Banks' idea of family. The show's Clarence Lumpy Rutherford, portrayed by actor Frank Bank, said that his decisions about marriage and having children were affected by the idea of a traditional American family like the Cleavers. I wanted normalcy. I wanted that Cleaver existence, he said. After marrying his high school sweetheart, Bank had Julie and Kelly as children, an additional encouraging impact on a show actor. Imagine how many ordinary people would have been favorably impacted by this play if it had had such a good effect on two performers. This is not the present TV age when everyone aspires to be the family's most famous or worst person. All those things about wanting to emulate and model after the Beaver are wrong, and many more programs need to play a tape of hers to get some decent, family-friendly showmaking advice. Barbara Billingsley was understanding of misbehavior. In addition to her boys on television, actress Barbara Billingsley had 2 sons at home. Because of this, she was pretty acquainted with mischievous conduct in real life. She often requested that Beaver and Wally's wrongdoing be slightly more dramatic to justify the character's outrage. This is comparable to Beaumont's experience as a pastor and his ability to impart life lessons. The additional knowledge enhanced her acting ability in the part, which improved her performance on film. The acting boys most likely sensed the truth in her outbursts of rage whenever she directed them, because viewers will likely experience the intensity of her parenting via the role. Her request to the authors to make the boys more naughty is a positive thing for the series. According to the producer, in scenes where she's mad at the boys, she's always coming over to us with the script and objecting. I don't see why June is so mad over what Beaver's done. The Beaver's buddy, Larry, was written off the show. Robert Stevens' character, Larry Mondello, appeared in around 70 show episodes. However, his acting career came to a stop when his family relocated to the East Coast since his father got a job in Philadelphia. However, there is a myth that he was fired from the program because his mother was an extremely demanding stage mom. We all loved Rusty so much. He was so good in that role. And unfortunately, they had to let him go because his mother was such a pain, Barbara Billingsley said in a 2000 interview. She explained that Rusty's mother would go to the producer's office and make demands, which is why, finally, they let him go. This is an example of a mother who made the wrong decision for her child's career. I apologize, Stephen, but sometimes that is how things work out. Their real-life moms were on the set daily. What is best for her children is known to a mother. To prevent issues on the sets of previous TV series with child performers, the mothers of Mathers and Dow came to the studio daily to ensure their sons were well cared for and to keep the realms of imagination and reality apart. Their parents were a great asset to the cast and crew, and the young performers benefited from having their parents present on the set. Undoubtedly, it would always be advantageous to have a family member around. For many performers this young, even walking over to their mother for a little pick-me-up might mean a lot if everything is not going well that day, or if you are having trouble memorizing your lines. The mothers made a wise decision by acting this way and not making it into a problem. Tony Dow's mother was a stunt woman. Being wonderful appears to run in the family. The actor, Tony Dow, who portrayed Wally in Leave It to Beaver, was reared in Hollywood and was the son of a stunt woman. However, Dow had yet to gain prior acting experience. In early Western films, Muriel Virginia Dow filled the role of Clara Bow's duplicate. Stunt duplicate work is tricky. If it were simple, the actual performers would do it. Risky stunts suit your profession if you're Jackie Chan and want to do your stunts. You never know what may go wrong and end up hurt, missing out on filming for that part, or forcing the whole movie to reshoot till you recover. For this reason, having a stunt double is a terrific idea if you have to execute stunts for your job. It was the first show to display a toilet tank. The following information could be more embarrassing. It is commonplace to see a toilet on TV these days. However, this program made a huge stir when it first premiered. When you encounter a toilet daily, why make a big deal from one in the show? Because the program included sequences in bathrooms, a location that was considered indecent by the censors at the time. They almost prevented the show from airing. There would have been an enormous uproar if programs like Bad Girls Club had existed back then. Thank goodness. When the family saw a toilet, how did their conversation proceed? Perhaps a little less severe, but you get the idea. Oh my goodness, cover your eyes, Sam. There is a toilet right there. We do not want you to see that. The location of the Cleavers' hometown was never revealed. The Leave It to Beaver writers kept the Cleavers' residence secret throughout the show's 6 seasons. It was most likely an attempt to make the program approachable to as many people as possible, since the town of Mayfield perfectly captured the essence of the every town the USA feel the show aimed for. It was shot on the Universal backlot and based on a fictional village called Mayfield. To put it another way, you won't be able to locate the actual home they occupied. But if you go to Hollywood and visit Universal Studios, you may take a tour and even get a glimpse of the famous house. The lovely 2-story house included a den where many scenes were set as soon as you entered. This home has been in the news since it was featured on several episodes after The Beaver. The show did use real footage of various U.S. towns. The makers of Leave It to Beaver used real-life images of American villages, including one of Skokie, Illinois, to give viewers a genuine impression of the Cleavers' hometown of Mayfield, even though they never disclosed the town's location. This is a clever marketing tactic, since it gives consumers something more nuanced to connect to. They may feel more connected to the TV drama if they see a building that resembles one in their city. A few more examples fit as well, but that is essentially the idea of the monologue viewers could have when they see similar buildings in their neighborhood. For instance, hey, there goes that building that looks like the one downtown. The Beavers must live somewhere near here. No wonder they have qualities similar to ours. Any tactic will be beneficial. The Ward before Hugh. Hugh Beaumont was different from the original Ward Cleaver, despite how difficult that is to accept. An alternate performer was selected for the part and featured in the program's initial pilot before it debuted. Nevertheless, Beaumont was chosen to replace the original Ward permanently, and this version was never shown. The fact that the program had grown so successful may have made the other performers resent the circumstances. Fortunately, Max Showalter couldn't have been too angry about the scenario because of the many films and television series in which he had roles. Beaumont was undoubtedly the best option, even if there aren't many clear explanations for why the pilot was never shown or why they chose him in the first place. You have to use your imagination to determine how much the program would have changed if a different patriarch had held the position of head of the household. And the title before Leave It to Beaver. No, the original title wasn't Leave It to Beaver. Some claimed that the program's makers altered their thoughts because Wally and the Beaver sounded too much like a show about animals, and they eventually settled on the moniker we are all acquainted with. This is partly accurate, but the sponsors modified it because they felt the original version sounded too much like a natural history program. It makes sense, since it might have easily been misconstrued for that. The sponsors were thinking more about their era, so imagine flipping through the TV guidebook instead. If this were modern times, and you were flipping through the guide list on the screen and saw Wally and the Beaver about to come on next on ABC, you might stop and say, when did they start making a show about beavers on ABC? The episode with the highest production cost. The team had to build a billboard and occupy additional area on the Universal Studios set for Season 4, Episode 32, The Soup, rapidly becoming the episode with the highest production expense of the TV show's 6 seasons. In this episode, Beaver is told to climb the billboard and investigate how steam emerges from the cup. A lady is seen on the billboard clutching a hot cup. When he reaches the top, Beaver tumbles into the cup, and Whitey dashes back home. Beaver stares at Wally and the cacophonous onlookers as he gets inserted into the cup. The fire brigade arrives shortly after and saves Beaver from his tragic fall. Spoofs of this episode may be seen in programs like Family Guy. In the Family Guy parody, Peter Griffin discovers a child inside a cup after falling into it. Using characters as extras. Beaver's school instructor appeared in Season 4, Episode 1, Beaver Won't Eat, as an extra since there weren't enough actors. In a restaurant scene, she is seen seated at a table next to the Cleavers, but the family doesn't recognize her as the school instructor. That's one approach to budget management. They are getting acquaintances of the actors to participate in the program for a lower fee than hiring a professional actor. Despite having no lines, the instructor was presumably excited to be on TV. She may discuss it with her children or friends. Extras are becoming a common sight in movies and TV series. Extras are recruited via social media to appear in scenes where they are needed, and they turn up quickly in the hopes of having an opportunity to meet the stars. Mathers was the first child actor to make a deal for merchandising. Jerry Mathers began his acting career as a youngster, informing the show's producers that he would instead attend his Cub Scout meeting than go on audition, but he excelled in the TV industry when he got there. Mathers put in a lot of labor, appearing in all 234 episodes during the 6-year run of the program. After realizing that he and his family could profit from the show's merchandise, he became the first child actor to have a portion of the products included in their contract. Merchandise continues to bring in money for the play today. Clever idea by the young Mathers. As long as people continue to value this groundbreaking comedy, merchandise sales should continue to flow in from such a transcending program for a very long time. Few performers are as astute as Mathers to rewrite their contracts in such a way. Beaver was ranked as a top 100 TV character by Bravo. Several memorable, well-liked, well-known personalities have emerged through TV's history. To name just a few, there are Will Smith, Frankie Muniz, Lucy Ricardo, Fonzie, and Mary Richards. It was also a significant achievement for Beaver to be included at 74 on the list. He outperformed a few other influential figures, demonstrating his significance to culture at the time. Many people are still aware of the Beav, even though he lived before the current generation, which indicates much about how he managed to cross generations. Even if 74 doesn't seem like a large number and doesn't even make the list, it's still an excellent figure to have on your acting CV. If he can stay on the list decades after many new programs are released, it would be a great testament to his cultural significance. For now, only time will tell. Chrysler sponsored the show's 3rd season. Ward Cleaver drove an American-made automobile, of course. Why not attempt to extract as much patriotism as possible from an American comedy with which many may identify? Furthermore, most cars in the country at the time were American-made. The father had a 1957 Ford when the program debuted. It's not at all a poor vehicle. However, Chrysler Corporation was the show's sponsor for its 3rd season. Just so you know, Ward Cleaver is spotted driving a Plymouth Fury on his way home from work, according to the arrangement's terms. Indeed, it is a given that agreements are made when you are sponsored. For this reason, if you see someone endorsing a product in a commercial, the odds are good that they use it. For instance, Nike would penalize an NBA player who wears Puma during a game and is sponsored by the company. It had good, but not great ratings. The fact that Leave It to Beaver was never able to indeed hit the jackpot with its ratings, despite its famous products, relatable nature, and fantastic characters, is an oddity, since typically only those things happen once the program has high ratings. But because the program was renewed season after season, it didn't matter. This raises the question of whether ratings matter as much as we believe. Their worth could only be to the TV network. Given the circumstances, the ranking system can be skewed. Ratings may be impacted, for example, if someone didn't own a TV, but a friend did. The individual without a TV may watch the program at that friend's place. Additionally, if a large family of 6 watched together, you would lose a few viewers. The 4 Cleavers appear in every episode. The Beaver, Wally, and their parents are the only 4 characters to appear in every episode of Leave It to Beaver, even though several characters, Eddie Haskell, Larry Mondello, and Lumpy Rutherford, to name a few, often feature over the show's 6 seasons. It's not always the case that the lead characters in other series appear in every episode. Sometimes a solo episode exists merely to further a particular character's story. In other cases, it could be a 2-part episode that goes on. The main protagonists being up in every episode isn't unheard of, but it is unusual. You would assume that programs would always include the primary stars in every episode. However, writers sometimes leave place for a character to appear in the episode's framework, or contracts get in the way. The finale, a trend-setting send-off. Leave It to Beaver was one of the first TV sitcoms to feature a series finale in the last episode. It was indeed the first comedy to accomplish it. Howdy Doody, a sketch-based puppet show, was the only television program to have done a comparable flashback-based episode to conclude a series in 1960. Numerous other television shows ended with a standard narrative, acting like another episode. As they watched the last episode and relived some of the greatest moments from the whole run, fans of the program most likely had tissues ready. Watching the character development is a sentimental experience, since it makes you remember where you were in life a year or 2 ago at that point in the series. Numerous subsequent series adopted the same approach, crafting their finales like the last. The writers didn't want to make us laugh. Although Beaver's childhood mischief was shown in a few humorous situations, the show's authors never intended for their viewers to chuckle. They would cut a sequence from the program if it made too many people laugh. The actor who portrayed Wally, Tony Dow, said, "If any line got too much laughter, they'd take it out. They wanted chuckles, not big laughs." Is laughing too much so bad? It could be frightening to mistake the program for a humorous comedy, but it seems a little forward-thinking to be terrified of a good chuckle. This can also be a part of a more extensive marketing campaign. Once again, the program broke down boundaries. Thus, it would have been a good decision if they had gone in this direction, but it also may have been the cause of their lower numbers. The Cleavers' house later became Wisteria Lane. The Cleavers' home on Leave It to Beaver was included in Desperate Housewives as one of the properties on Wisteria Lane, as was briefly noted before, long after the show's finale. The original home was merely altered for the subsequent production, and it remained on the Universal Studios Hollywood property for many years. Universal Studios is renowned for using hand-me-down sets and props. Most homes on their lot have been used in several TV series and films and have undergone minor changes that make them challenging to identify. There are a few more shows that have made use of the Cleaver Mansion, in addition to Desperate Housewives. After all, it's a gorgeous home, and you can't help but dream for a little while that you may one day live in a place like that simply by gazing at the outside. The show ran for 6 seasons. This is an additional need for success. How many seasons were there in a show? A sitcom's second season pickup is typically seen as a victory since most end after 1 season. Nevertheless, this program broadcasts more than 200 episodes throughout 6 seasons. Seinfeld has 9 seasons and 180 episodes, to put it into context. Given Seinfeld's popularity and how many episodes Leave It to Beaver had, it's reasonable to assume their enjoyment was heroic. The program must be regarded as a tremendous success, even if it has never been at or near the top of the Nielsen ratings. Furthermore, who says you are essential if you are at the top of specific ratings? The fact that this show has lasted so long indicates that it was a fantastic program. Hence, those ratings need to be updated. True fans were aware of this show's excellence. The show moved major networks after one season. In its early years, Leave It to Beaver caused great tension for both CBS and ABC. The sitcom started on CBS initially, but was transferred to ABC for the next 5 seasons after a meh first season. That's good for not believing in anything right away. As I said, CBS was obliged to change since the show's ratings were insufficient. Nonetheless, their strong enough ratings made their 5-year TV career possible. We may also credit Ralston Purina, the show's sponsor, for this development. That was a significant assistance since he could work out a better bargain with ABC than with CBS. There's no better example of dropping the ball than what CBS did. CBS is likely blaming themselves for not hanging in there and seeing whether the program might succeed. The show was a scheduling nightmare. Apart from the difficulties encountered with the program transfer from one major network to another, Leave It to Beaver also faced other scheduling issues. During its multi-year run, the series was shown on 4 distinct nights, Wednesday through Saturday. When the day of their preferred viewing day shifted, supporters were understandably quite confused. This can be an additional factor contributing to the low program ratings. You could miss a few episodes if you have to constantly wonder for years when you believe one of your favorite series will air. The network should have locked down a consistent broadcast date. This is particularly important for younger viewers than for older ones, since the former may need help understanding the technicalities of television and may even believe the program has been canceled. It was voted one of Time's 100 best shows ever. Even though the show's Nielsen ratings could have been more impressive, as previously indicated, it has maintained its legendary stature. In fact, along with a few other illustrious programs, it was selected as one of Time magazine's 100 greatest shows ever. It did a great job at capturing the essence of mid-century existence. The fact that this program was one of the first to be seen from a child's point of view, and that it was very relevant to many families, may have contributed to this outcome. Being included among the top 100 TV characters was an achievement for Mathers, but it was also a feat for all the program's performers, directors, writers, and producers. Anything that is timeless, relatable, and induces nostalgia deserves a spot on the top 100 programs. It was shown in 80 countries and over 40 languages. Numerous factors influence success. In athletics, it may represent the number of titles you've won. It could be your number of acting accolades. If a movie does well at the box office, many people are interested in seeing it. When this program started airing, there was only one method to gauge Leave It to Beaver's level of success. If the show's lasting popularity wasn't enough to convince you that it was well-liked, then its broad appeal should be. Not only was it shown across the United States, but it was also broadcast in around 80 foreign nations and about 40 different languages. That is significant, since the majority of programs that you would consider popular nowadays need to be translated into other languages. It was an enormous hit in many areas where it was broadcast.
If you've watched the video till here, that means you've enjoyed the video. Subscribe. Don't forget to turn on the notifications bell icon